What's up, guys? UFC Vegas 110, David Onama versus Steve Garcia is this weekend. Yeah, that's what I said. Trust me. It's why my video is just now coming out. I didn't want to make a video about this because these fights are not good. Yes, they might be fun. Yes, they might be exciting. There's only 3 ranked fighters on this card. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the entire UFC Vegas 110 Steve Garcia versus David Onama card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event. Yeah. And breaking down this generational banger of a card. So, let's start off with our first fight of the night. Give me a second. I'm not even set up. Look at this shit. I don't even know who that means I'm picking anymore. I don't remember how the coin works today. I don't know, man. Look at the shoulders on this guy. And then look at this woman. Here. We'll flip again. Yeah. Ariane Carnelosi, I guess. I don't know. I really don't know. It does not matter. It really, just really doesn't matter. You know? Carnelosi by decision. Moving on to the first fight of the night, we've got Philip Rowe versus Seok Young Ko. I am going to be picking Seok Young Ko by decision, I think. Sorry, boys, I've been sick. I've got Seok Young Ko. His performance against Oban Elliott and other tall guys on the Contender Series give me hope, and his grappling ability makes me think he's going to be able to take Philip Rowe down and dominate him on the ground, or at least control him on the ground, because Philip Rowe's submission game is not too terribly dangerous. I could see Rowe pulling off his same thing that he just did against Angelusa, I think, where he loses the first 2 rounds, gets beaten up pretty early, but then takes a loss. You know what? Actually, he's going to get beaten up early and get knocked out. First round KO for Seok Young Ko. He lands big shots on taller guys pretty often. Philip Rowe gets hit a lot. If I'm not mistaken, Angelusa hurt him in their fight. And that's not a good sign because I don't recall many fights where Angelusa has hurt his opponent. I've got Seok Young Ko by KO. He's going to live up to the name this time. This is one that I'm like semi-confident in, but I could see Philip Rowe getting a finish later. Yeah, let's go. Well, we do have an anomaly here. We have a woman that gets hotter as she gets beaten up. Alice Ardeline versus Montserrat Ruiz. I'm not trying to say that shit in the middle. More mucus. Let's go, boys. Yeah. Anyways. That'd be Alice Ardeline. I actually want to say she gets a finish here. Has she ever finished? Okay, yeah. You know what? Alice Ardeline by 2nd round KO. There's your non-decision women's fight. This will probably be the banger of all the women's fights on this card. Because there are a good bit. I think the next one is one as well. It sure is. We've got Norma Dumpmont versus Ketlin Vieira. Again, here we go. These are very technical breakdowns, if you will, on the channel here, guys. So always remember to like and comment, especially. That helps out Al Gore's rhythm a lot. I don't know if you saw The coin picked Norma Dumont by decision. All right, we move on to the second fight of the night. We've got Dante Johnson versus Cedric Dumbass. I'm going to be picking Dante Johnson by round 1 KO. I don't believe in Cedric Dumbass. He's not a fighter. He's never been a fighter. He'll never be a fighter. He had more criminal offenses than dollars in his account before his last fight, and I guarantee it's probably the same way again. This dude's stupid. He lives up to his last name. He got his last name for a reason when they started picking them out. And, yeah. Anyways, Dante Johnson KOs Cedric Dumbass in round 1. Easy. This dude was knocking out heavyweights. And he's at middleweight now. Who else did that? Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier. Next, we move to a bantamweight fight. We've got Timmy Kwamba, I think, moving down to bantamweight for the first time versus Chang Ho Lee Shit. I'm picking Chang Ho Lee, and I'm going to pick him by ground and pound KO. I think it's going to be round number 2. He gets a TKO ground finish here on Timmy Kwamba, who I just have no belief in at all. Beat Roberto Romero, but, you know, who is that? Anyways, I've got Chang Ho Lee. Even though I say I'm never picking Asians again, I consistently do it when they're South Korean. Moving on to Kevin Christian versus Billy Elikana. One of the fights I expect to be one of the more boring fights of the night. I will be picking Billy Elikana to win by decision. I don't know who Kevin Christian is. I don't know who this guy is. I don't remember him fighting on Contender Series, so his fight must have not been that impressive to me. I have Billy Elikana winning by decision, and I think it should be fairly easy for him, outside of the height and reach disadvantages. Moving on to the main card, we've got Alan Nascimento versus Cody Durden. I am going to be picking Alan Nascimento by submission. Cody Durden just makes too many mistakes. I think that Cody Durden's maybe not going to... He might get the fight to the ground, but he is going to make mistakes and get himself caught in a submission. Alan Nascimento's game is pretty solid off of his back, on top. If Cody Durden makes mistakes, Nascimento is going to capitalize and submit him. If not, sweep him and then take over. Moving on to the next fight, we've got Charles Radke versus Daniel Frunza. We've got the guy who I hope gets to say the words he loves saying again. His 6-letter F word is one of my favorite F words. You know? So, I've got Charles Radke winning by round 1 knockout, by left hook, if you will. I think his left hook will be what seals the deal. I think Daniel Frunza is very, very hittable at welterweight, and you do not want to be hittable against Radke, although Radke is hittable as well. Frunza does have some good durability, but I don't think he can take the power shots of Charles Radke, especially that left hook. So, I do think Radke gets the finish pretty easily here, and we'll move on to Isaac Dolgarian, versus Yair Deval. I am going to be picking Isaac Dolgarian, and I'm going to pick him by submission or by decision. I think he's going to be up 2 rounds minimum going into the third, and I don't think Deville's going to get a submission. He loves jumping for submissions and getting his back on the mat. And Dolgarian is a wrestler, so I assume he is going to take, or a grappler, he takes full advantage of that. Moving on to Jeremiah Wells versus Timba Garimbo. I'm going to be picking... Man, this is a tough one. Tapology and the betting odds are leaning towards Timba. Timba is a better fighter who's fought at a higher level, I guess. But the same guys that Jeremiah Wells has lost to, I could see Timba losing to. I think I'm going to be picking Jeremiah Wells by round 1 KO, but I'm really not sure. He's a big dog, and if he lands, I could see damage happening to Timba, and he was not taking damage well against Vicente Luque, if I'm remembering right. Or he shot a takedown and got darsed, or anaconda'd. I can't quite remember right offhand. It's either Garimba decision or Wells by KO. I mean, it's one of the two, and I think you got a 50-50 shot of kind of each one happening. I'm going to pick Jeremiah Wells by KO, just because he's a slight underdog, and I think it's a pretty solid chance of happening. I don't love picking that for that reason, but underdogs have been coming up pretty big this year, especially the older guys, too. Now, moving to the co-main event, we have Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Ante Delija. I think that Ante Delija is a very good striker, but I could see Waldo Cortez Acosta getting the takedowns here and being a problem for Ante Delija. But I do think the training with Tom Aspinall is going to have paid off pretty well. I think Ante is, like I said, very good at striking. He's one of the best heavyweight strikers we've seen in a while, which isn't saying much, sadly, because the heavyweight division is in absolute shambles. But, yeah. I'm going to be picking Ante Delija by decision, I think. I think Waldo Cortez Acosta is a little too tough to be finished by guys at this level. Although, I can see him getting the finish here. I don't know. I'm going to be picking Delija by decision. I do think Waldo's crafty enough to stay alive in these fights, or in this fight, and not get finished, but I just don't see him. His only path to victory for me is the grappling. I am going to be moving to the main event now. We've got Steve Garcia versus David Onama. I'm going to be picking Steve Garcia by round number 2 or 1 KO. I'm going to pick, yeah, round 1, round 2 KO. I think Garcia's pressure and everything is going to be too much for David Onama, and David Onama's been hurt by a lot lesser opponents than Steve Garcia, and Steve Garcia has been. Onama will be fast, and that I could see that being an issue for Garcia, but Garcia's pressure, pace, and survivability are just going to be a bit too much, in my opinion. And I just think he's going to get the job done here by KO. His pressure, he's just going to land a big shot, and it's going to hurt Onama, and then the pressure's going to pour on, and it's going to get finished. All right, so these are my picks. Let's go back over them. I have Steve Garcia by round 2 KO. Ante Delija by decision. Jeremiah Wells by KO, round 1. Dolgarian by decision. Radke by KO, round 1. Say it again, please, brother. Nascimento by sub, round 2. Billy Elicana by decision. Chang Ho Lee by KO, round 2. Dante Johnson, round 1 KO. Norma Dumont by decision. Alice Ardeline by TKO, round 2. Suk Young KO by KO, round 1. And Carnelosi by decision. These are my picks, guys. Trail them if you want to get some good bets in. I have been doing terrible on picks, but these are going to be good, I promise. We had a lot of underdogs lately winning, and I just think this is one of those cards where not a lot of underdogs are going to show up yet again because they're not quite at the skill level of the guys and girls who are the favorites. Like I said, these are my picks. Follow them if you want to. And enjoy the fights here in 30 minutes, guys. I know I did a last-minute video here, but enjoy. You guys have a great day. And like, comment, subscribe. Help out Al Gore's rhythm. Bye.